Hey, it's AT time. My name is Ron Freeman, and today on Animation Trainers, we're going to start a new series here called My Animation Journey, in which I will be speaking in detail about what made me want to become an animator in the first place, and how I got to where I am today. And to make sure that you don't miss any of the upcoming videos in this series, or any of the other videos that we post here on Animation Trainers, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and switch the notification bell to all. I was born and raised right here in Los Angeles, California, and for that reason I've spent my entire life surrounded by the entertainment industry. My best friend when I was 7 years old had a father who was on a hit television series in the 70s. My best friend when I was 13 was Tony Latour, who used to be a regular in a minor recurring role on another hit television series at the time, Cagney and Lacey. And I myself was in commercials when I was a kid. In fact, I was in the very first Cookie Crisp commercial, back when the mascot was an animated wizard named Cookie Jarvis. I wonder if that little guy had anything to do with me deciding I wanted to be an animator. Although, if I include him as a potential early influence in my decision of an animation career, then I probably also have to include two animated characters that used to give me nightmares as a child. You know how they say that sometimes people choose a career in order to directly deal with an early trauma or to combat an ongoing fear, etc.? Well, when I was young, my mom would let me stay up late on Saturday nights and I would watch the Carol Burnett show with her. And at the end of the show, during the closing credits, they had an animated version of Carol Burnett's washerwoman character, and she would watch the credits roll by. But then, at the very end, after the last credit rolled, she would look at the camera with an exaggerated grin on her face, looking out of the corner of her eye. And the camera would zoom in very close on her, and it absolutely freaked me out. I must have felt like she was looking into my soul, and I would start to cry. I had a similar response to the stop-motion animated version of Lucille Ball that appeared during the opening sequence of the show Here's Lucy. She would start stuttering across the stage, and I would start backing out of the living room on all fours, keeping a close eye on my enemy. But childhood trauma or no, I ultimately decided to become an animator for two reasons. The first, and most important, is that I adored animation, both the Disney feature kind and the Warner Brothers cartoon variety. In fact, Tony Latour and I used to quote Bugs Bunny to each other. I considered Disneyland my mecca and got a job there when I was 20 years old just so that I could work on the Haunted Mansion. I had a souvenir book they sold there at Disneyland back in the 1970s all about the Pirates of the Caribbean. And in that book was some of the concept art created for that attraction by Mark Davis, Disney legend and one of Walt Disney's 9 old men and my own personal hero, having also created most of the art for the Haunted Mansion. Well, I would trace over those drawings trying to get a sense of how to make my drawing feel like his did, and I dreamed of working on projects like that. But aside from my love for Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons, the second and equally important reason that I chose animation as a career was the aforementioned friends in the industry as a child. I had heard from an early age about the not-so-glamorous parts of working as an actor and the sacrifice of your privacy that came with the territory. And so when I was in my early 20s and had reached the age where I really needed to make a decision about what I wanted to pursue as a career, I chose animation. And the reason I chose animation was because I felt that, like other careers in the entertainment industry, it allowed me to be a performer. In fact, I could be any character and not be limited whatsoever by gender, body type, age, build, etc. But it also seemed more attractive to me because it allowed one to maintain their anonymity. No one could look at a person and tell by their appearance that they were responsible for animating Bugs Bunny, for example. And it seemed to me that the work might be a little more steady than that of an on-camera actor and might provide better longevity. After all, it sounded like a lot of the people who got into that industry stayed in it for the majority of their careers. And it seemed like the kind of career that one could continue doing well into their later years and not have to worry as much about ageism the way an on-camera personality or a sports figure does. However, one of the obstacles I had to overcome were my grades. I have severe ADHD, but I was not diagnosed until I was an adult. And so I had a very difficult time focusing in class and being still. As a result, my GPA was garbage. Are you also someone who struggled to do well in a school setting regardless of your enthusiasm? Or did you find school easy? Please tell us what school was like for you in the comments below. But even if my grades had been good, I was applying to Cal Arts, and since at that time it was still all about 2D and drawing, I was simply not a good enough artist to get into the program. I wasn't sure what I would do next. But since the path I had been told to take was not an option for me, it was time to forge my own. In our next video in this series, I'll be talking about my break into the industry by interning at a small studio in North Hollywood, California, where I would meet the people who would begin guiding me on my animation journey. And so to make sure that you don't miss that video in this series, or any of the other videos that we post here on Animation Trainers, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and switch that bell. And would you like to have a private session with me where we can discuss how to improve your animation skills working with me directly one-on-one? Then please visit our website at animationtrainers.com and schedule a session with me. My name is Ron Freeman, and I hope that we will see you for our next video here at Animation Trainers. In the meantime, keep it moving.